Today I'm going to talk to you about how to have the most successful mortgage transaction possible and how to be your lender's fantasy client. Yeah, we do have clients where we love them so much. Like my whole team will be like, oh, they were dreamy to work with. They were so dreamy to work with. And it's really not that hard. It's seriously not that hard. So the most important thing to remember when you're getting a mortgage, whether you're working with me or another lender, is that the lender you've selected is your team. We're your team. We're here for you. And you want to make sure that you remember that throughout the transaction. So I'm going to talk to you about a couple of things that make the transaction very difficult and a few things that you might want to do so that you have the smoothest transaction possible. Okay, number one. If you're filling out that online application, try to be as accurate as possible. Check your spelling. So it's always surprising to me when someone fills out an application and then they call me a week later and they're like, you have my name spelled wrong. And I'm like, you filled out the application. Seriously, because we're not changing your name. So we're going off of what's on the application. So if you typed your name in wrong, okay, cool. Now, if that happened and you tell us immediately, great, we will correct it. But what can happen sometimes is we'll get all the way to the closing table and it will be like, oh, there's initial wrong or this is wrong. And we're kind of like, okay, so you want to be as accurate as possible on that online application. Also, truthful as possible. Okay, if you fill out the online application and you're like, I make $80,000 a month and you get a automated approval from the system, it's not a real approval. We're always going to check your income and your assets to make sure that that's accurate. So just keep in mind that you want to be as accurate as possible. However, the lender will be switching your income and assets once we have all the documentation. Now, there is the declaration part as well. The declarations asks if you're in default on federal debt, if you pay child support or alimony. It asks a bunch of questions. You want to answer those truthfully. And I've said this in other videos, but sometimes people will answer them incorrectly because they're thinking we won't catch it. And it's always a problem because we do catch it. And it's such a waste of time. It's a waste of time for you. It's a waste of time for the realtor. It's a waste of time for the seller. It's a waste of time for everyone. Be honest. Honest is so important. We love our honest buyers. They make us so happy. Okay, so the next thing is when you get disclosures, right? Disclosures are us showing you, hey, look, this is what the loan's looking like. There's also a loan estimate. Review them and read them. Yes. Now, and I know like some people are like, well, who wouldn't read their disclosures? Most people do not read their disclosures. They don't. And I get it. Like it comes over on DocuSign. It's so easy to just go click, 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 click. And you trust your lender. So you're like, I'm sure it's perfect. I don't really understand this. Click, click, click. Okay. So if there's two parts of the loan estimate, of the disclosures that I think you need to read, they are the loan estimate and the application. Those two are so important, guys, so important. So the loan application, I want you guys to go through that with a fine-tooth comb and tell me anything that's wrong, okay? And we'll update that for your final doc. So if I've got your name spelled wrong, if I'm off a digit on a social security, if your address is place instead of drive, I want to know then. It sucks, excuse my language, but it sucks when we're at the closing table and someone's like, oh, I'm a junior and you don't have it. And it's like, it wasn't on the initial thing. It's not something that's triggering. We didn't tell us now. Anything you want corrected, you want to tell us as soon as possible. Okay. Now the loan estimate's important too. It shows you the cost of the loan. It shows you how much in closing costs to expect, as well as your monthly payment. How much are you supposed to have for your monthly payment? I am surprised when people are like, well, I didn't realize that my payment was going to be that much. And when I'm doing a pre-approval, I'm always sending out a loan summary that estimates it, but then it's also going out in disclosures. So if someone's almost about to close and they're telling their realtor they didn't realize what the payment was going to be, that's because they never read the disclosures. They didn't read the other documents the lender provided. And it's very important that you guys read that stuff, not because I'm being like a teacher being like, do your homework. No, you need to know what you're getting into, because if you're at the finish line and you're saying, oh my God, I didn't want to do this race, I didn't know there'd be running. It just doesn't always work. And sometimes if you're in contract to buy a house, you could lose your deposit over it. So please read your disclosures. The next and most important thing is that when a processor's asking you for documents, please get them to them as quickly as possible. Dream clients, upload it immediately. That's what they do. If they have questions, they ask the processor. They're like, hey, I have a question about this one. Do you want this? Is this what you want? Communication is so important, because once in a while we'll hit borrowers where my processors may have reached out a couple times, and I'll call them and I'll be like, dude, what's going on? Like, it's not fun chasing you. Why won't you give us docs? And they're like, well, I didn't think you really needed that. Cool. Could you have told me you thought I didn't need it so we could have talked about it? Because at this point, I think you're just ghosting us. So if you guys are looking at something a processor's asking for and you don't agree with it, reach out to the loan officer immediately. 9 out of 10 times, once we explain why it's needed, it will make sense. And then maybe 1 out of 10, we can go, yeah, that's overkill. I think we can go without that. Let's see if the underwriter calls it out. Okay. Now, if we're towards the end and we're asking for stuff, it is because the underwriter called it out. So we definitely need that stuff. So you just have to understand that processors do not get off on asking you for extra docs. They don't like extra docs. The way that my team is structured, they get paid based off how many loans they close. They do not get paid to torture people. So we want only the docs that we need to get you the cleanest approval through the underwriter. Their job is to collect the documents the underwriter needs, try to get the cleanest approval as possible, and try to get you closed. It's how they get paid. So you want to make sure that you understand the processors are part of your team. The loan officer, the processors were your team. Okay, so if we're asking you for stuff, we really need you to give it to us. If there's a reason you can't, we need you to communicate it. If you don't understand it, please talk to us. Please, communicate. Communication is the key to a great mortgage transaction. And sometimes, it might take the processor a day to respond depending on volume, but communicating is very important. So dream clients upload their documents. Nightmare clients make us chase them and then they give it to us like one at a time. Also, if we're asking for 30 days most recent pay stubs, no, your pay stubs from 2016 will not work. Okay? And I say that because you'd be surprised. We get a lot of pay stubs from a couple of years old and we're like, why are you sending this to us? Something else important to note is that anything that you send us stays in the file. We don't have the ability to delete documents. That's something that Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie are very passionate about, that any documents you provide to us, they want to keep in the file. So you want to make sure that you're providing the documents the lender needs. Sometimes people go a little bit overkill. Talk to the processor, talk to the lender, give us the documents we ask for. Okay, let's see what else. I think those are the big things. The big things are, transactions go sideways when people aren't being truthful up front and we find out later. They go sideways where we get ghosted and we can't get what we need. And they also go sideways when we just don't get the documents in the right period of time. And that's what you guys have to keep in mind, because when you're buying a house, you have a set period of time to accomplish the task. If you want to close in 30 days, I want you in underwriting within 5. If you don't give me those documents until day 21, you're not closing on time. It's not my fault. I've been asking for it for 21 days. You have to be diligent with the documents. Seriously. And if you're like, oh, this is horrible, this is too much work, don't get a loan. It is not the time to get a loan. If it's too much work for you to get a loan, do not do it. I get it. I hate getting a loan. I did a refinance recently and I am the worst client. They were so patient with me. I couldn't use my own team, so I had to use another team. And I was the worst. I was like, you don't really need this. I checked the guidelines. And they're like, actually, Jennifer, there's a new guideline. And I was like, oh, I was just trying everything I could. I was horrible. Don't be me. Be a better version. So really give them those documents. Oh, the last thing. Homeowners insurance quote. Yes, get that homeowners insurance quote day one for buyers. Yes, if you guys are buying a house, often insurance is the thing that everyone's like, oh, I'll just get it at the end. No big deal. Like Zillow said it was $50. No worries. No. I need you guys to get that homeowners insurance quote day one. Here's why. homeowners insurance can be a lot more expensive than you even think it could possibly be. California is a fantastic example. There's pockets of California where you can't get normal insurance. You have to get what's known as the California Fair Plan. Getting that type of insurance takes longer. It's not like an insta quote. So you really want to make sure that you guys are getting your homeowners insurance day 1, day 2, day 3 at the latest, because that is something that I see makes transactions go sideways. So I think you guys got the most important thing about this is please, please get the documents the processors are asking to them as quickly as possible. Please read any emails from the lender. If you're getting a loan and the lender is sending you emails, it is not for fun. It is because we need stuff, or we have to tell you something, or we need to communicate. And please recognize that all of this has timelines, and we're not going to meet those timelines without your cooperation. We are a team, right? Let me help you. Help me help you. Is that the line? We'll work on that. So thank you for watching. I hope you guys are doing well. Any questions, comments, please feel free to leave them, like it's on right now, in the YouTube comment section, and I will get back with them as promptly as possible. Thanks for watching.